Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury has joined us again. Call your next witness, please, Ms. Tish McGuire.
Carly Richards.
Good afternoon. Could I have you raise your right hand so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
This is what happens when you say it 100 times. All right, have a seat. Please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names.
My full name is Carly Suzanne Richards, Carli Suzanne Richards.
Ms. Tish McGuire, you may proceed.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Were you at the Century 16 movie theater on July 19th, 2012 in Aurora, Colorado?
Yes.
Did that go into the early morning hour of July 20th of 2012?
Yes, it did.
What do you remember about the day of July 19th prior to going to the movie theater that day?
I woke up kind of early that morning, went out to Boulder, see some friends, had a good lunch. I came home, hung out with my dog and my partner at the time, freshened up a bit, and got ready to go out to the midnight premiere of the new Batman movie.
When did you get your tickets for the Batman movie?
My partner at the time had ordered them online prior to that day.
What time did you arrive at the movie theater that night?
I believe it was maybe 10 till, I know the movie was supposed to start about 5 minutes after, so we arrived at least 10 or 15 minutes early.
And are you 10 or 5 minutes after midnight? What time?
It was supposed to be 5 minutes after midnight.
What did you do when you got to the movie theater?
My partner went to the Fandango machine. There's a Fandango ticket kiosk, and that's where we printed out our tickets that we had ordered online. I used the restroom, and then we went into Theater 9 for our movie.
What's the name of your partner who you were with there that night?
His name is Christopher Townsend, Townson.
What did you do when you got into the theater? How did you decide to pick your seats?
We noticed that it was very crowded. There were only a couple of seats, it seemed. We went up towards, sort of up the stairs a few rows. Tried to get some seats in the middle. They were taken, so we decided upon some seats that were towards the outside of the row and up about 11 rows.
So were you up in the stadium seating area of the theater?
Yes, and to the left facing the screen.
So if this is the movie theater screen, you're over here on the left.
Mm-hmm. We were right on the end.
What do you remember doing before the movie started?
Just kind of sitting around and waiting. I know that as soon as the lights dimmed, everyone kind of cheered, and then that's when the movie started.
What happened during the movie?
The movie went smooth as usual for about 10 or 15 minutes, it seemed like. I don't know the actual time, that was my estimate. And then I noticed that a door to my right, down towards the bottom, near the screen, it was an emergency exit, opened, and a figure wandered in.
How would you describe that figure for the jury?
Judging by his posture and stuff, I had gathered that it was a man. Was wearing dark clothing, which appeared to be riot gear or combat gear, and had what I thought was some sort of toy gun or something with him.
Did you notice that the person was wearing any sort of mask?
It appeared that he was wearing some sort of gas mask.
What do you recall after seeing that figure walk through the door?
I heard what seemed like a light, some sort of gas mask.
What do you recall after seeing that figure walk through the door?
I heard what seemed like a light popping noise, as if maybe someone was opening something. And then I heard a hissing noise, and I saw a canister of, I didn't know what at the time until it landed, head towards me. The girl next to me and I both swatted at it, and then it landed at my feet.
This actually landed at your feet?
At my feet.
Right? What do you recall after that?
Immediately, my partner, Chris, asked, "What is that?" I bent down to sniff it, and since I spent 4 years in the Navy, I knew...
Your Honor, relevance in 403, excuse me.
What's the relevance?
Your Honor, she spent 4 years in the Navy and has smelled tear gas, and it's part of her basic training.
Overruled.
You can continue answering the question, Ms. Richards.
Sorry. So anyhow, I knew what tear gas smelled like, and I immediately uttered tear gas, and that was when I began to stand up to leave my seat.
What happened as you began to stand up? Did you realize anything?
I heard kind of a popping noise, and I felt like something warm, it felt like, splatter my right arm as I was standing.
What do you recall happening after that?
I recall immediately jumping out of my seat and exiting down the stairs, and I ran until I had reached the lobby.
Your Honor, if I may approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1160.
Yes.
Ms. Richards, do you recognize the document that I just handed you?
Yes.
All right, what is that?
This is a diagram of the theater with the seating arrangements.
Did you notate on that diagram where you and Mr. Townsend were sitting that night and also where you believe that canister landed?
Yes.
Does it fairly and accurately represent what you believe happened on July 20th of 2012?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this time I would move for the admission of People's Exhibit 1160.
Any objection, Ms. Spengler?
No objection.
Without objection, P-TR-1160 is admitted and may be published.
Thank you. If I could please have 1160. All right. Ms. Richards, there is a mouse in front of you, like a keyboard mouse on that
Correct.
stand. Can you see if that is okay? Could you use that arrow that's on that mouse to kind of point out on your diagram where you and Mr. Townsend were sitting?
Why am I having trouble with this?
Oh, is it not working?
Um,
It might not be working.
Oh, wait, there we
oh,
go.
you got
Oh,
it.
gosh.
Okay, and it kind of
Okay.
turns into a micro. There you go. All right. So that area right there is the area where you and Mr. Townsend were seated, and is that the same area where the canister landed at your feet?
yes.
All right. And then can you also show the jury where it was that you saw that first figure on your diagram enter the theater?
The figure entered, oh, this mouse is a little touchy. The figure entered right there, where the star is.
And did you recall seeing the figure anywhere else in the area of the theater, or is that the only place in the theater that you recall seeing that figure?
That is the only place I saw him.
All right. And then if you could also use that mouse, since you're getting good at using it, to show the jury your exit path of the theater.
Right. Since we were seated here, we then descended down these stairs here, where this line is, and out this exit to the lobby.
All right. Thank you very much. Your Honor, if I could also ask Ms. Richards to approach with the cordless microphone so that she can show the jury on the diagram where that canister landed.
Okay.
All right. So there should be a cordless microphone up there somewhere, Ms. Richards. If you could come and meet me down here, please. All right, and if you could stay kind of up here and then show the jury on the diagram about where you and Mr. Townsend were. And if you kind of stay here so the jury over there can see, otherwise you're kind of blocking them.
So I believe we were up.
Oh, sorry, let me ask you to turn that on.
Okay. Anyhow, I believe we were up in this general vicinity. I believe it was this row, and we were seated in the last two seats to the left. I was here, and my partner was on the very end.
Right, and where on the diagram did that canister land?
The canister landed right here. It would be right in front of the seats at our feet.
Okay. And could you show them on this diagram where it was that you saw that figure enter the theater?
It was down this way, where the emergency exit was. Came in right here.
All right, thank you very much. You can take your seat and turn off the microphone. So after you ran through the lobby area, where did you and Mr. Townsend go?
After running through the entire lobby, I stopped briefly at the final exit doors to make sure Chris was behind me. As soon as I realized it, the second I realized it, I continued out to the car, which was at least 50 yards away in the parking lot. And then we stopped at the car so that he could unlock the doors.
Did you recognize anything about yourself at that point in time when you got out in the parking lot?
Yes. As soon as we got to the car, I realized that my arm was in pain. I said something about it, and Chris said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Hurry up, let's get in the car." I was urging him to, and that's when I touched my arm because it was in pain. And when I pulled it away, I realized that my hand was covered with a red substance that I had assumed was fake blood or something.
Did you find out if that was fake blood or if that was real blood eventually?
It was my blood.
Right? And where had you learned that you had been shot?
So after we had gotten into the car, we realized that there was a police officer doing construction traffic on the corner of Exposition and Sable. We decided to drive to him since we were new in the area to ask him to instruct us as to where a hospital was, because I knew that I needed medical attention. As soon as he flagged down paramedics, it was all kind of blurry, that particular spot. He flagged down paramedics and they told me that I had been shot with buckshot.
Were you able to get into the ambulance?
Yes.
What happened when you got into the ambulance?
I was immediately administered oxygen. They had begun the beginning stages of the IV, started taking my vitals, and we went back to the movie theater to grab more people.
How many more victims got in the car with you?
2.
Objection, relevance, and 403.
Overruled?
If you could just answer that question again, please.
There were 2 more victims with me in the ambulance.
Where did you go?
I was taken to Denver Health.
When you got to Denver Health, did you have any surgery for any injuries?
Not immediately at Denver Health. They just did the usual x-rays. You're getting the wounds, the terrifying CT scan. The surgeries came later.
Right. How many surgeries did you end up having, Ms. Richards?
About 4 or 5.
Right. And what kind of surgeries did you have to have?
I had to have pellets of birdshot removed from my body, usually a couple at a time.
And could you describe for the jury where in your body you had these pellets removed?
Yes, I had at least 2 in my right arm. I had 2 or 3 in my left leg. I had a couple in my back, and then I had at least 1 or 2 removed from my chest.
Your Honor, if I may approach Ms. Richards with what's been marked as People's Exhibits 2000, 2001, and 2002.
Yes.
All right, Ms. Richards, do you recognize the person in Exhibit 2000?
Yes,
Who is that person?
that's me.
Does that picture fairly and accurately represent what you looked like on July 20th of 2012?
Yes, it does.
You could please turn to People's Exhibit 2001. All right. What does that picture describe?
This is a picture of my right arm. There is my cat tattoo and the microdermal piercing I used to have, and several pocked bloody holes and skid marks on the arm.
Does that fairly and accurately represent your injuries that you received to your arm on July 20th of 2012?
Yes, it does.
And could you please turn to Exhibit 2002? What does that photograph depict?
This is a photograph of my legs. It appears that I'm in a hospital bed. I can see the catheter tube.
And does that picture fairly and accurately represent your injuries to your leg on July 20th of 2012?
It does.
Right. Your Honor, at this time I would move to admit People's Exhibit 2000, 2001, and 2002.
Is there any additional objection?
Judge, we would object to 2002. I don't think there has been an objection, but would not object to the other 2 photographs.
All right, P-TR-2000 and 2001 are admitted without objection. Can I see those, please?
Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
Is the objection to 2002 under Rule 403? All right, the Rule 403 objection is overruled because I find that the probative value of the evidence is not substantially outweighed by any of the concerns listed in Rule 403. So P-TR-2002 is admitted over objection, and all 3 may be published here.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I could please have People's Exhibit 2000. All right, Ms. Richards, this is a picture of you in the hospital on July 20th of 2012.
Yes, it is.
All right, if I could have Exhibit 2001. That's a photograph of the buckshot wounds to your arm.
Yes.
We could have People's Exhibit 2002. And that's a photograph of the buckshot wounds to your leg.
Yes.
Right. Thank you very much. I have no further questions of this witness.
Ms. Spengler, do you have cross-examination? And there may be a question from the jury. Give us a moment, please. Thank you. Would counsel please approach? All right, Miss Richards, the jury has submitted some questions, and I have found based on the rules of evidence and other applicable rules of law that they are appropriate. The first question is, did you run out of the theater immediately after you heard gunfire?
I ran out of the theater immediately after I smelled tear gas.
The next question is, was there any other type of gunfire that you heard?
I was not aware that I was hearing gunfire. It sounded like fireworks to me.
And the last question is, do you know when you got pellets in your chest and back? And you should only answer if you know. You cannot speculate.
Well, no, it was when I went to the hospital. I got x-rays, and then that's when they told me where I had been hit.
Okay, any follow-up questions? Based on those questions, Ms. Tish McGuire.
Please, Your Honor. Ms. Richards, can you describe for the jury how it was that once you smelled the tear gas, you positioned your body, and how it was that your body was positioned when you exited the theater?
I immediately went to grab my purse from the floor. I stood up, and I exited to the left, which is where the stairs were to lead us out to the lobby exit.
Did you have to bend over to pick up your purse?
Briefly.
No further questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Pengler, do you have any follow-up questions for this witness based on the jurors' questions?
No, I don't.
All right. May this witness be released from her subpoena?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
No objection.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Call your next witness, please.
Heather Snyder, please.
Good afternoon. You solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, Your Honor.
Please be seated. Please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names.
My name is Heather Lynn Snyder, HeatherLynnSnyder.
Ms. Tish McGuire, you may proceed.
Ms. Snyder, were you at the Century 16 movie theater on July 19th of 2012 in Aurora, Colorado?
Yes, I was.
Did that go into the early morning hours of July 20th of 2012?
Yes.
Could you please tell the jury about what you remember about the day of July 19th, 2012 prior to going to the movie theater that night?
I was working at Red Robin that evening, and some of my friends from work were going to the movie. One of my coworkers offered to close the restaurant for me so that I could join them all.
Were you able to do that?
Yes, I was.
What time did you get to the movie theater that night?
About 10:30.
Who did you go to the movie theater with?
I went with a group from work. It was Farah Soudani, Jacqueline Fry, Christina Blosh, Jasmine Kennedy, Alex Sullivan, Edgar Nava, Chelsea Sababalik, Maria Carbonell, and her two kids, Armando and Annalise, Tony Bilipondo, and Bryson Bilipondo.
Who did you drive with to the theater that night?
I went with Jackie.
What did you do when you got to the theater?
We went inside and found all of our friends. They had printed out the tickets for us already. And then we went and picked our seats. And then Jackie and I went to the concession stand, went outside so she could have a cigarette. And then we just went back in and hung out waiting for the movie to start.
Do you recall anything unusual at all happening before the movie began?
No.
What do you remember happening in the theater that night?
We sat down and the movie began. About 15 minutes into the movie, I started to hear some popping noises that sounded like black cat fireworks. And I saw orange flashes down to the right of the screen.
What do you recall after you saw those orange flashes?
After I saw the orange flashes, I saw some smoke that had traveled from the bottom right to the left side of the theater, and it was followed with a hissing sound. And then I was looking in that direction and felt a burning sensation to my left forearm.
What do you recall after you felt that burning sensation to your left forearm?
I looked down and a bunch of my friends were all worried about what was going on, and then I felt a pain to my left knee that spun me out of my chair to where I was now facing the back of the restaurant, or the back of the theater on my knees.
Did you do anything else at that point in time?
At that point in time, I had noticed that two of my friends were on the ground and another one of my friends was still in her seat. I went to grab her out of her chair and then pull her to the ground as well.
Who was the friend that you pulled out of her chair?
Farah Sudani.
And who were your friends that you recognized were on the ground at that point in time?
Jacqueline Fry was on the ground and Chelsea Sababalik was assisting her on the phone with 911.
What were you thinking at this point in time?
I was thinking, oh my God, what's going on? I was a little in shock, and with everybody running and screaming, I felt that it would be better for me to just lay on the ground, and I proceeded to try to call my family.
Were you able to get through to your family?
No, I was not.
What were you hearing in the theater while you were on the ground?
I heard just all the popping noises and people screaming.
What do you recall after you were down on the ground?
A flash had happened in the movie, and I had looked down and noticed that two of my fingers on my right hand had been mangled. And then that Farah Sudani had her leg up on my chair, and her calf had been blown out, and it was like dropping down on my head.
So her calf is literally falling into your face?
Yes.
What else did you witness at that point in time?
I also witnessed a gentleman on top of Farah Sudani holding her sides together, straddling her body.
Could you see her injuries at that time?
Just the one on her leg, and I could kind of see where his leg was holding her side together.
Was that her right side or her left side?
That would be her left, like me facing her would be on my right.
What's the next thing that you remember happening in the theater?
And then I remember the paramedics showing up and everybody yelling, if you can move, you need to get up and get out so we can assist everybody else. So I got up and I walked down the right-hand side of the theater out the exit door.
Your Honor, if I can approach Ms. Snyder with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1165.
Yes.
All right, Ms. Snyder, do you recognize People's Exhibit 1165?
Yes, I do.
All right, what is that a document of?
It is a diagram of the movie theater.
Right, and did you notate on that diagram where you and your friends were seated that evening in the theater and things that you recognized in the theater that night on July 20th of 2012?
Yes, I do.
All right, Your Honor, at this time I would move for the admission of People's Exhibit 1165.
Is there any objection, Mr. King?
No objection.
Without objection, P-TR-1165 is admitted and may be published.
I could have 1165, please. All right, now there's a mouse in front of you, Ms. Snyder. And if you could show the jury where it was that you and your friends were seated in the theater that evening.
We are seated, oh, this mouse is touchy, right here.
All right, and if you could tell them where you're seated.
Right where the mouse is my seat.
All right, and who's on the other side of you?
To the left is Farah Sudani, to the right is Jacqueline Fry.
Right, and on the other side of Farah Sudani.
That is Michael White Jr. and Michael White Sr.
Right, and could you show the jury where it was that you saw the orange flashes?
Down here in the corner.
And could you show the jury where it was that you saw that smoke travel across the theater?
I saw it start at about the bottom of the stadium seating and go towards the other side of the theater.
Right, now at any point in time in the theater, did you ever see a shooter?
No.
The entire time you were in the theater, did you hear the popping noises or the gunshots, or had they stopped at some point in time?
They had stopped and restarted.
Right, and do you remember or recall when you were describing where you were in the theater, where you were seated in the theater when they stopped and restarted?
I was by my chair the entire time.
All right, and do you recall if at some point in time the shooting had stopped before the police and paramedics had entered?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
All right, and could you describe for the jury on that diagram where you exited the theater?
I came from my chair to the row behind me and then came down these stairs and out the exit door down here.
So the exit that went out behind the theater?
Yes.
All right, Your Honor, at this time, with the court's permission, I would ask Ms. Snyder to join me at the diagram, the model, to show the jury where she was seated that evening.
Okay.
All right, if you could grab that cordless microphone and turn that on, please, Ms. Snyder. If you could kind of stay up here for me and show the jury where you believe you were seated that evening approximately.
We were seated approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, about right here.
All right, and can you say where you were again and then where Jacqueline was?
It was Michael White Sr., Michael White Jr., Farah Sudani, myself, and Jacqueline Fry.
All right, and can you show the jury on this model where you saw the orange flashes that night?
Right down in this corner by the exit.
All right, and then can you also tell them the exit that you left the theater in that night?
And the exact same exit.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What happened when you got outside that exit door?
When I got outside the exit door, the paramedics were starting triage, and so I went and sat against the wall, awaiting my color to be told how serious my injuries were.
Did the paramedics give you guys different colors depending on the severity of your injuries that evening?
Yes, they did.
Were you able to observe your injuries at that point in time?
I was able to observe the injury to my hand, and then I still just felt pain in my knee and my arm.
What did you notice about your hand at that point in time?
My fingers looked like they'd been put through a garbage disposal.
What else did you recognize about your fingers at that point in time? Were they dangling or were they...
Yeah, they were just dangling by skin. There was no bone or anything left on my fingers.
At some point in time, did you get some medical treatment?
Yes, I did.
All right, so what happened for you to get medical treatment that night?
There was a police car that pulled up, and they had put me in the front seat, in the passenger seat, and then they had pulled another injured victim in the back seat and drove us to ambulances.
Did you know the victim who was placed in the back seat of that vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Who was that?
That was Christina Blosch.
Is she one of your coworkers from Red Robin?
Yes.
What happened after you got into that police car?
We drove down the grass behind the movie theater, and we found a row of ambulances. I was then placed in one ambulance, and Christina Blosch was placed in another ambulance.
Were there any other victims in the ambulance you were placed in?
Yes, there was one other lady with an injury to her leg.
What hospital were you taken to?
I was taken to Denver Health.
What happened when you got to Denver Health?
When I got to Denver Health, they had started IVs and everything. They took me to do x-rays and admitted me into the ER.
Did you have surgery when you were at Denver Health?
Yes, I did.
All right, what did you have surgery for?
I had buckshot removed from my left knee, and I had my fingers amputated.
Did you have any other buckshot to your body as well?
I had a gunshot wound that went in my forearm that went just in and out, straight through.
All right, Your Honor, if I may approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 2027, 2009, 2028.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Snyder, do you recognize the person photographed in People's Exhibit 2027?
Yes, I do.
Who is that person?
That would be myself.
Does that picture fairly and accurately represent what you look like on July 20th of 2012 when you were at the hospital?
Yes, it does.
All right, if you could turn next to what's been marked as People's Exhibit 2009.
Okay.
All right, what's depicted in that photograph?
That is a photograph of my leg where I had been hit with the buckshot.
Does that fairly and accurately represent your injuries on July 20th of 2012?
Yes, it does.
Then if you could turn to People's Exhibit 2028. Right, and what does that picture depict?
That is my arm wrapped up in like a soft cast.
Right, and was that from the amputation of your fingers?
Yes, it was.
All right, Your Honor, at this, and does that fairly and accurately represent what you look like on July 20th of 2012?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this time I would move for the admission of People's Exhibits 2027, 2009, and 2028.
Is there any objection, Mr. King?
Judge, I believe all three of these exhibits were subject to pretrial litigation, and I would renew our objections in that regard. To the extent that any of them are not, I would object under Rule 403.
Okay, thank you. Can I see those, please?
Of course.
It appears that P-TR-2027 was subject of amended order D-98B. And so I stand by my ruling with respect to that photograph. And so that photograph is admitted and may be published. P-TR-2028 and 2009 were not subject to a previous ruling. And the Rule 403 objections with respect to those two photographs are overruled because I find that the probative value of each photograph is not substantially outweighed by any of the concerns listed in Rule 403. So both of those are admitted and may be published.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I could please have People's Exhibits 2027. Right, Ms. Snyder, is this a picture of you at the hospital on July 20th of 2012?
Yes, it is.
All right, if I could please have People's Exhibit 2009. And a picture of the injuries you sustained to your leg on July 20th of 2012.
Yes, it is.
Right, if I could have People's Exhibit 2028. And that's a picture of your hand bandaged up after your amputation.
Yes.
Ms. Snyder, at this time I'm going to ask you to raise your hand as high as you can to show the jury your fingers and your injuries. All right, and thank you very much. If the record could reflect that Ms. Snyder just raised her right hand to show the jury her amputated fingers. And could you tell the jury what fingers those are?
It would be my index finger and my middle finger of my right hand.
Do you have any lasting injuries that still affect you today, Ms. Snyder?
Occasionally I will have what they call phantom pains, where it feels as if my fingers are still there and cause me to drop things or spill them as trying to grab them.
When you say spill things, are you in fact a bartender, Ms. Snyder?
Yes, I
Objection,
am.
Judge, at this point.
Sustained.
Your Honor, if I may approach the witness with what's previously been admitted as People's Exhibit 4678.
Yes?
Ms. Snyder, do you recognize the person in photograph 4678?
Objection, Judge. This is cumulative at this point.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may I just ask her to not publish the exhibit, but I may ask her if she knows that person?
Yes, that is appropriate. You can ask her.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Snyder, who is the person depicted in that photograph?
Alex Sullivan.
Did you ever see Mr. Sullivan alive again after July 20th of 2012?
No, I did not.
I have no further questions. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Any cross-examination?
No, thank you.
The jury may have a question for you. Would you give us a moment, please?
Of course.
Thank you. Would counsel please approach? Ms. Snyder, the jury has submitted some questions that I have found based on the rules of evidence and other applicable rules of law are appropriate. The first question is, while you were in the theater, did the gunshots all sound the same? If you know.
I can't recall.
All right. Any follow-up questions based on that question, Ms. Tish McGuire?
No, Your Honor.
Any follow-up questions, Mr. King?
No, thank you.
May this witness be released from her subpoena.
Please, Your Honor.
Any objection?
Without objection.
All right, thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, call your next witness, please.
The people call Sarah Burnett. Yes, right up there.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could I have you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please be seated. You can hand me those exhibits there.
Sure.
Thank you. Could you please tell us your full name for the record and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Sarah Burnett, S-A-R-A-H-B-U-R-N-E-T-T.
Ms. Pearson, you may proceed.
Ms. Burnett, who are you employed by?
Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives.
How long have you worked for them?
15 years.
What do you do for them?
I'm a special agent. I investigate federal firearms, narcotics, and explosives laws.
Do you have expertise in firearms?
I do.
What kind of expertise do you have?
I've been in law enforcement for 19 years, and I've carried a firearm in those 19 years. And since I've been with ATF, in all my investigations, I've probably investigated over 300 firearms cases. I am also an interstate nexus expert, which means that I have an extensive knowledge of firearms and where they come from, as well as ammunition and where they're manufactured.
Were you asked to respond to the Century 16 Theater on July 20th of 2012?
I was.
Were you asked to do anything with regard to firearms on that date?
I was. I was asked to assist other ATF agents and the FBI's ERT, their evidence response team, in recovering and processing the scene.
Did you handle a specific firearm at the scene?
I did. I handled the rifle, which was a Smith & Wesson MP-15 .223 caliber rifle.
What were you asked to do with that rifle?
I was asked to make it safe and then turn it over to the ERT.
I'm going to hand you what's been previously admitted as People's Exhibit 706. Do you recognize this firearm?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
I recognize it from...
And make sure you're talking to the microphone at the same
Oh, I'm
time, if
sorry.
you could, please.
I recognize it from the serial number and the make and model.
And what is the serial number of this particular firearm?
Serial number is SP 43179.
Is this the one that you picked up and made safe at the back of the theater on July 20th of 2012?
It is.
And you can put it up there behind you if you'd like. So. Now, it was, we've seen pictures of it laying on the ground outside the exit door behind the theater. Was it in that location when you first found it?
It was.
What did you do with it?
I picked it up, and as I was picking up, the magazine was not seated properly in the magazine well. The magazine fell loose to the ground. I picked up the magazine, brought the firearm and the magazine over to where they were doing the evidence collection.
And if you could explain first, what does seating a magazine, what does that mean?
The magazine is that banana-looking clip that you see that was coming out of the firearm in the picture that you saw with the two pink flip-flops beside it. When you seat a magazine into the firearm, it needs to click so that rounds can come out of the magazine and go into the firearm.
So you indicated the magazine fell out. Did you have a chance to look at the magazine?
I did.
Could you tell whether it was empty or full?
It appeared to be full. I'm very used to, we fire a similar weapon at ATF, uses a similar magazine. It's highly recognizable as a 30-round magazine, and by the heft and the weight of it, it felt full to me, but I did not take the rounds out to see how many rounds were in that magazine.
And that was a job that somebody else did?
Yes,
Now, were you able to determine whether there was a round in the chamber?
there was.
And could you explain what that means to have a round in the chamber?
Absolutely. Having a round in the chamber means that it's ready to fire, and that once you pull the trigger, a round would go through as long as it wasn't jammed in some way.
How does a round get into the chamber?
The bolt pushes it forward from the magazine into the chamber, and then it fires.
And if you could point out on this rifle, I don't know if you can or not, where the bolt is? And if you can hold it up and to the...
Plastic.
Let's see. I'll have you step down and this microphone here. So, if you could step down this direction so we could show it to the jury.
Kind of tricky in this box.
If you could just hold up the box towards the jury and I'll hold the microphone for you. How's that?
So the charging handle is right here.
If you could turn more sideways still, if that's possible.
Sorry. Okay. This right here is the charging handle. This is what you pull back to eject a round if there's a round in the chamber that hasn't been fired. The bolt is right here, and the magazine well is right under here, and that's what feeds the rounds into the firearm.
And when you saw it, the bolt was closed?
Yes. So this is the bolt that was closed. It's actually, you can't really see because it's on the other side, if it was open or closed. But when it's open, it's clearly open. You see an open space. When it's closed, the bolt is forward and there's no space there.
And this magazine, or this rifle is currently unloaded and safe to handle, is it?
Yes.
Don't really need to carry this back. Did you remove the round that was chambered?
I did.
When you removed it, did it appear to be damaged in any way to you?
I didn't look very closely at the head stamp area where the primer would be hitting to see if it was damaged in any way. But I didn't have a hard time removing it. By pulling back on that charging handle, that ejected a round, and that round was turned over to ERT.
And the round that was in the chamber, was it sitting in there straight or was it sideways?
It appeared to just be sitting as it should, facing forward.
Do you recall what kind of ammo was chambered in the rifle?
I don't know the make. I didn't look at the head stamp to determine what the actual make was, but I do recall that it was green tipped.
And what does green tipped ammo mean?
Generally, it means that it's armor piercing and military grade, but that's not always the case. I mean, there are some manufacturers of ammunition that paint that tip on, and I would need to examine it more closely to see if it was, the green sometimes is a tungsten material, which makes it armor piercing, so I'm not sure if this was actually a tungsten tip or a green painted tip, but it was green tipped.
As an ATF agent, do you carry green tipped ammo in a rifle?
No.
Objection relevance.
Overruled.
Now, you indicated that the magazine was not seated in the rifle. Do you
Correct.
know why that would be?
It could be for several reasons. It could mean that the magazine was overloaded. Generally, what we do as agents, we don't ever load more than 29 rounds because sometimes even 30 rounds in a 30-round magazine will cause it to jam. It could mean that one of the rounds was placed improperly. It could mean that the rifle was dropped at some point and it was dislodged. But I guess I shouldn't offer my opinion, but I thought it was because it was overloaded.
Was that based on looking at the magazine physically?
Yeah, and the weight of it.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions.
Okay.
Cross-examination, Mr. King.
Briefly, Judge.
Good afternoon.
Special Agent, you responded to this scene on the 20th, is that right, at about 10 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, I first responded to the apartment, so I was there probably around 8 and then went over to the movie theater.
With regard to your testimony about this rifle, as far as you know, the location where the rifle was located when you retrieved it and rendered it safe was the location where it was discovered by law enforcement.
Yes,
As far as you know, no
far
one
as I
had
know.
touched that weapon, is that correct?
that's correct.
And it was on the ground outside the rear of the theater?
Yes.
Right? And when you picked up that rifle, you said the magazine, which was inserted but apparently not fully inserted, would you agree with me?
Yes,
Fell to the ground.
yes,
You picked up the magazine, and you testify that you're familiar with this weapon and you've used this quite a bit, right?
this style of weapon, yes,
And this would be like an M4 AR-15 style
Correct.
magazine-fed semi-automatic rifle, correct? When you picked up that magazine, it felt full to you, and that's a common magazine, a 30-round magazine for that weapon, correct?
Yes,
And you didn't really take the rounds out and count how many were in there, is
I
that
did
right?
not.
But what you did say is that in your use of this weapon, you are trained not to load more than 29 rounds into that magazine, despite the fact that it's a 30-round magazine, right?
Yes,
And the reason for that is if you put 30 rounds in, it cannot feed properly, which would cause a jam, correct? And you said that, you just said in your opinion that the reason that this magazine wasn't properly seated in the rifle was because you thought it was overloaded.
That's the only reason I could think why there would be a round in the chamber and that it wouldn't feed in there properly.
And I'll get to that, but certainly if you were to take this 30-round magazine and try to jam 31 rounds into it, that's going to cause a problem and it's not going to seat properly in the rifle, correct?
Yes,
Now, when you picked up that weapon, the bolt was all the way closed, and you showed the jury what the bolt is, right? And that is the position that the bolt's in when the weapon is ready to fire, correct?
yes,
You also noted that there's a safety on this weapon, right? Correct?
sorry.
And you can manipulate the safety near the trigger, and there are two positions, safe and fire, right?
Yes,
And it's pretty obvious when it's in the safe position, you can't pull the trigger, correct?
right,
And even when the bolt is forward, right?
yes,
But when it's in the fire position, it's ready to fire, correct? And when you pulled back on the bolt release, it ejected an unfired cartridge out of the firing chamber, right?
correct.
When you looked at that round, you didn't notice that there was anything wrong with it that stuck out to you.
Right.
So, from all the information that you had, when you picked that rifle up off the ground, if you had inadvertently pulled the trigger, it would have fired. Correct?
Would have, yes. I would not have put my finger on the trigger, though, as I was picking it up.
Because you're trained not to.
Correct.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Is there any redirect?
Just one question. Was the safety on safe or was it on fire?
It was on fire.
Thank you.
Any recross?
Thank you.
The jury may have some questions for you. If you
Okay.
could give us a moment, please.
Sure.
Thank you. Would counsel please approach? The jury has submitted a couple of questions for you, and I have found, based on the rules of evidence and other applicable rules of law, that one of the questions is appropriate. The question is approximately how much does that rifle weigh when loaded?
I have never taken account to how much it actually weighs, but I would approximate 9 pounds.
Any follow-up questions, Ms. Pearson?
No, Your Honor.
Any follow-up questions from you, Mr. King?
No, thank you.
May she be released from her subpoena?
She may.
Without objection.
All right, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, the people called Dion Rossborough.
Good afternoon, sir. Could I have you raise your right hand for me so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm, under penalty of law, that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, please be seated. Please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names.
Dion Dwayne Roseborough, DionDwayneRosBoroughh.
Mr. Brockler, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, would you tell us what you do for a living?
I'm a supervisor for the Postal Service.
Do you live in and around Aurora?
Yeah,
Have you lived there for a while?
yes,
Now, back on July the 19th of 2012, that's almost 3 years ago, did you go to that theater that we're all here to talk about?
yes.
Why'd you go there?
I went to see the Batman movie. I heard that there was a trailer for the Superman movie. I really wanted to see that, and I wanted to see the Batman movie.
You a big fan of those kinds of movies?
Yeah, I love superhero movies.
Now, did you end up going by yourself?
Yes, I did. I had asked some friends of mine to go, and we agreed all to go on Saturday, but I still wanted to go on that Friday night.
You go by yourself?
Yes, I did.
How'd you get your ticket?
I bought it online.
Through the Century or through...
I think it was through Fandango.
Any trouble getting a ticket?
No.
Did it tell you which theater you were assigned to?
Yes.
Was it theater number 9?
Yes, it was.
Tell me what time you got there.
I think it was about 11:45.
By the time you got there, was it kind of hopping?
Yes, there was a lot of people there.
How do you know? Tell us what you saw.
When I went in, there was a lot of people in the concession stand. There was a lot of people waiting to buy tickets, and then there was a line waiting for people to scan their phone electronically.
In fact, you had to park a little far away?
Yes, I did. I parked to the right side of the theater as you're facing it.
Looked like a premiere.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so when you went in, because of the lines of the concessions, did you get something to eat?
No, I knew I was running late, so I went straight into the theater.
And to find a seat?
Yes.
Did you have any trouble finding a seat?
Surprisingly, no. I sat in a seat that I usually sit in when it's empty.
Or may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Sir, I've marked this blank exhibit here as number 1213. Would you take a look at that and tell me if to you that looks like the interior of that theater as it looked back on July the 19th, 20th of 2012?
Yes.
Can you see on there where you think you were sitting?
Yes.
Do you have a pen up there? I can get you one if you don't.
There's one. There's one.
Okay. Do me a favor if you would. Would you circle the seat where you think you were sitting? Just draw a little dash next to it, and would you put your initials there? Can I take a look at that, Your Honor? May I approach?
Yes.
Okay. Do me a favor, sir. We'll have you draw on that some more in a moment. Describe for the jury, if they're the screen to this theater, can you describe for them where you're sitting?
As soon as you come in, the first seat, I would say apart from the front seats. There's a space between those front seats, and then right behind that is where I was at.
Now listen, I know we're going to talk about some of your injuries here, and I don't want you to keep getting up and down. We're going to come down, and I'll have you point to this at the end, okay, as to where you were sitting. And that's what you've reflected on that People's Exhibit 1213?
Yes.
All right. Now, did you just sit down there and stay there until the movie started, or did you get up and move around?
I stayed there. I didn't want to lose my seat. Like I said, surprisingly, it was open. I mean, because it was crowded in there, but I was shocked that that seat was open.
By the time the lights go down for the previews, is the theater packed?
Yes, very.
Any open seats that you're aware of?
No, I looked behind me and there was none.
So did you get to see that trailer you were hoping for?
I did. I was excited for a little bit.
Kind of cool?
Yeah.
So the movie starts. What's the first thing that happens that strikes you as out of the ordinary?
I can't say anything, really. Nothing until I'd say about the 10 or 15 minute mark.
Tell us what happens at about the 10 or 15 minute mark.
Well, I heard a popping sound. I didn't really pay any attention to it but it was definitely distinct from the movie, from what I heard. And then I could see smoke hovering over, but I didn't pay any attention to that either. It wasn't until I heard a bang, and then there was some screams coming from behind me. Then I heard another one, and then I finally looked behind me, and I saw people running, people screaming, and that's when I looked to try to find where it was coming from. And I looked down, and it was coming from right under the screen, the right side, by the exit sign.
Let's get there in just a moment. I want to back up a little bit, okay? You said you heard a popping sound.
Mm-hmm.
Where, if this is the screen, can you point to where you think that popping sound was?
I couldn't tell.
Do you know what it sounded like when you say popping sound?
It was like a...
Okay, and I don't know how the court reporter's going to put that down. I don't know if we can say onomatopoeia.
It sounded like a can opening, I would say.
Okay. And then did that sound precede the smoke you just talked about?
Yes.
Did the smoke at all affect you, or was it just something you noticed visually?
No, it was something I noticed visually. It's just kind of hovering over the theater.
At that point, what's your brain telling you is going on?
I was saying something was going on, but I thought it was part of some type of something that the theater had arranged, because I had been in theaters in the past that when there was a big event, they had arranged some type of theatrics.
So at that point, were you scared at all?
No.
Okay. After the popping sound, after you noticed the smoke, you said you heard a different kind of noise. What was that?
It was a bang. I don't know how to describe other than it was just like a blast, but not a huge blast, but kind of contained.
At that point, did you know where that bang had come from?
No, I did not.
Are you scared yet?
No.
What happened after you heard the bang?
I looked back because I heard someone scream, and
Hold on one sec. What kind of scream?
it was like
403, 401.
Overruled.
Go ahead, sir.
it was a scream like you'd hear in a scary movie. Someone jumps out and you see someone with a knife and it's ah.
Okay. Did that get your attention?
Yes, it did.
What happened then?
Like I said, I looked back, and then people started getting up and running to the left, and that's when I turned around to try to see where the bangs were coming from, and I found out that they were coming from the left side the right side of the theater. I saw someone in that corner.
Looking at this jury, as it's the screen, point to where the sound was coming from, those bangs that you identified.
The right side. The right side.
Right side of this jury as you face them, their left?
Yeah.
How many bangs did you hear?
I heard 2 before I acted.
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
You hear the 2 bangs. Are you scared now?
Yes, I am.
People are running
Yes.
behind you. How about the people next to you?
The people next I didn't pay any attention to them until I ran or tried to run.
Now tell us about that. You tried to run. Why couldn't you?
As soon as I got up, I turned to my left to run because I knew the shots were coming from the right side of me, so I turned to the left and tried to run, and I immediately stumbled over a person that was lying on the floor.
What were they doing?
They were just laying there, almost in a fetal position.
Do you ever remember that person moving during
No.
the rest of that evening?
No.
So you stumble, you fall. Are you on all fours? Are you on a knee? What's happening?
Objection to leading.
Overruled.
Go ahead, sir.
I fell to my knees at first. I felt the front part of my body was laying on top of that person, but I was on my knees to brace myself.
While that's happening, what's going on in the theater?
People are still running. I could see people running down the steps trying to get out the left side of the exit.
What are you hearing?
Just a bunch of screaming. There's still shots. Now the shots are rapid shots.
Do us a favor if you would. And I don't want you to use your voice for this. Could you use your hand and tap out on this wood, I presume it's wood, in front of you, how you heard the sounds coming in front of you?
The shots or the people?
Yes, sir, the shots. Thank
Okay.
you.
It's like,
And how long did it go on like that?
probably for a few seconds until there was a brief pause.
What'd you do?
I looked for the shooter, and I saw him walking up that passageway. So then I nudged the person that was on the ground to see were they going to move, and they weren't.
They respond to you at all?
No.
Hang on for just one moment, and we'll get back there, okay? You said you see the shooter. And you said it was down by that screen, remember? On
Yes.
the right? Is there something you can point to in this courtroom that is about the distance from where you think you were sitting to where that person was?
I would say that back there by the wall, by that, what's that thermostat?
Oh, yeah, okay. There's a thermostat back here about 4 rows from the back. I don't know what direction that is, Your Honor, but corner of the courtroom. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Tell us what he looked like, or what the shooter looked like to you.
I couldn't see. He was in the dark at the time. The only thing I could see was that he was wearing some type of headgear, but it was definitely dark, so I'm assuming that it was dark colored clothes.
Could you make out any weapons?
Not at the time,
Okay.
when I initially saw him.
That's when you see him. Are you already on your knees kind of over the person you described to us?
When I first saw him, I was still in my chair. I didn't drop to my knees until I actually saw the shots fired from the gun.
Did that shooter stay out there?
Not for long. When I turned back to look at him again while I was on my knees, that's when he started moving towards me.
Okay. What are you doing as he's moving towards you?
Actually, before I look to see if he's moving toward me, I'm laying on top of the person, waiting for to stop some type of stoppage in the shooting. And then when there was the pause, I looked back at him, and that's when I saw him coming toward me.
He's moving towards you. Is he still shooting?
Yes, he started back, and he was shooting. It appeared that he was shooting above me, from where I was at.
Now, when you say above you, do you mean in the ceiling or to the people behind you?
To the people behind me.
As he's moving towards you, could you start to make out a little bit more about this shooter?
Yeah, I could definitely see the gas mask, the headgear. that he was dressed in some type of armor, not armor, but clothing armor.
Not like a knight.
Yeah,
Right. Could you see his weapon?
yes.
What did it look like to you?
It looked like an automatic weapon. I couldn't tell you what exact kind it was.
The shooting that the shooter was engaged in as he's moving towards you, was it like you demonstrated here in front of us?
Yes.
What kind of pace is he setting as he's walking towards you?
It was slow. He's just a slow walk.
Didn't appear to be in any kind of rush.
No.
Another form of the question calls for speculation.
Sustained.
As he's moving towards you, slowly, shooting the way you've described, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking I need to get up and get out of here.
Are you in a position to do that?
No. I didn't want to trample over the person. I didn't know if they were dead or alive, so I didn't want to trample over them. And so I was trying to crawl past them, but they were blocking the entire row.
Does the shooter keep coming?
Yes.
What'd you do?
When I turned back around, after I nudged the person that was on the ground, I turned back to look where he was, and he was probably about 5 feet in front of me.
He being the shooter?
Yes.
Look, I know the words 5 feet, but I want you for this jury to point to something in this courtroom that is the distance that that shooter got to you.
I would say this desk right here.
This desk that Miss Spengler's sitting at
Yes.
right here? The front edge of it?
Uh-huh.
When that shooter gets to this distance from you in that theater, what happens?
I thought to myself, I'm about to be shot. And so I tried to cover up my face, and that's when he shot me.
Now, at the time, how many times do you think you'd been shot?
At the time, I only thought I had been shot once.
That turns out to not be true.
No.
What did it feel like?
My shoulder was hurting. That's the only thing I felt at the time. It was stinging, and I just knew that I had been shot in my shoulder.
What were you thinking?
I said, I'm about to die. I was laying there coughing up blood, but I was wondering why I was coughing up blood from just being shot in the shoulder.
Were you scared?
Yes.
403, 401, move to strike.
Overruled.
Were you scared?
Yes.
You're in this position. You know you've been shot. Can you see the shooter anymore?
No.
Do you hear shooting?
No.
What did you do?
I laid there. I don't remember how long I laid there,
Why?
but
Why'd you do that?
because I was feeling like I was dead. I wanted to make sure that he was gone before I attempted to get up if I could.
Did you think he was gone at some point?
I did. And honestly, I didn't care once I got up. I just knew that I could get up.
Where'd you go?
I went back out the exit that I came.
Do you remember seeing how the theater looked as you were running out of there?
Objection 403, 401.
Overruled.
Go ahead, sir.
No, I did not. The only thing I could hear the sirens going off. I knew the movie had stopped, but that was it.
Did you ever see that shooter again?
No, I did not.
Did you know when you turned to run whether you were going to where the shooter had gone or not?
No, I did not know. I didn't know if he had gone out the way I was gonna go, or did he go back out the exit that he came in.
What was the way you went, sir?
I went out the right-hand side as you're facing the screen, which was the way I came in.
Did you get back to the lobby?
Yes, I did.
And then what?
I was met by a police officer, and he escorted me out of the theater.
You end up going to the hospital and get treated?
Yes.
Before you got to the theater that day, were all your appendages and everything working the way they were supposed to on your body?
Yes.
After you left the theater in the early morning hours of July 20th, were they all working the way they were supposed to?
No.
I want you to tell us what injuries you sustained in that theater.
My scapula was shattered, and I have nerve damage.
Tell us about the nerve damage.
It's caused drop foot syndrome, and I can't lift my foot to walk naturally without help, or I have to lift my leg higher off the ground to walk.
Is that forever?
Yes.
403, 401, move to strike.
Overruled.
Go ahead,
It goes to the nature of the injury, the character, nature, and extent of the injury.
I apologize, Your Honor. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I was. The doctor told me that I should see.
Excuse me, hearsay confrontation.
Sustained as to hearsay.
Let's not talk about just what the specific words the doctor said, but the fact that you know that this is permanent is enough, okay?
Yes.
What I want to ask you about now is, remember when we said you thought you had been shot once, but you found out you'd been shot a second time?
Right.
Tell the jury where you were shot in addition to the scapula that it broke.
I was shot in the lower back, towards the middle.
Is that the source of the nerve damage for your leg?
Yes, and it punctured my lung also.
The injury to your shoulder, what did they do to you to try to fix that?
I was operated on, and they put a plate in there.
That plate going to be in you forever too?
Objection 403, 401.
Overruled.
Yes.
Same ruling as before.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sir, I'm handing you what's been marked as People's Exhibits 2565 and 2566. Take a look at that. You recognize what those are pictures of? Bless you.
I do not recognize the first picture.
Which one is that?
It's
I take it
2565.
Okay, go ahead and set that one down then.
Okay. And the second one was, it's me.
Okay, and that's how you recognize it. It's you.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the way you looked back on July the 20th, 2012, after you were taken for help from the theater?
Sadly, yes.
I'm going to move to admit People's Exhibit 2566.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Is there any objection, Ms. Spengler?
No further objection.
All right, based on my previous ruling, and there being no further objection, P-TR-2566 is admitted and may be published.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, there's another one, though. Remember that Exhibit 1213 in front of you?
Yes.
I want you to do me a favor, and could you did you already put your initials on there?
No, I did not.
Would you just write your name on it and put today's date on it? Do me one more favor on that. Using S1 for shooter and S2 for also shooter but 2, could you put for S1 where you first saw the shooter and S2 where you last saw the shooter? Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to have the witness come down and talk to us about where some things took place on the model, if he could.
Okay.
Sir, would you come down and do me a favor, too? Would you grab that stick?
And there's a microphone here, Mr. Ruckler. Do you want to?
Yes, sir. I'll grab that. Carry that for you. Thank you, sir. Come around the side, if you would, for us. Spengler, can you see? Sure. First, I want you to show for this jury, and if they can't see, I'm hoping someone will yell something. Can you point to the seat that you were in that night? You're pointing to the far end seat just in front of the railing here at the back of that area? All right. Now, we've taken down the walls because it was impossible to see in this box when the walls were there. But if we're going to presume that the screen is up in the front here, when you first saw the shooter, after you'd looked behind you and you'd heard the screaming, can you point to where that was on here? Okay. You described the shooter moving forward. And then the last place that you saw the shooter when you were covering up, can you show us where that is?
Overruled?
Go ahead, sir. It's right here. And you're indicating just to the right of the railing on the bottom of the stairs by this seat. And if I'm talking out loud, it's only because I want this nice lady to type those words into the record. Okay. Do me this favor, if you would. If you could back up a little bit. And you know what? Go ahead and use that stick as the weapon that you saw. Back up a little more.
Final counsel approach, please.
Sure.
All right, the objection is overruled, but Mr. Bruckler, you must proceed as we talked about here at the bench. Okay.
Your Honor, I'm scared to move this, but can I move it?
Yes.
All right. All right, sir, here's what I'm going to ask you to do, okay? What I'd like you to do is, if you could start over here by this hulking deputy and hold the stick like the weapon without pointing it at the jury, the way you saw the shooter holding the weapon. And I want you to demonstrate for the jury the pace that that shooter took and the way that he carried that weapon as he moved towards you in that direction, okay? And Ms. Spengler, I don't mean to make you that person. If you want to move over here, that's fine too. And that's the pace that he took?
Yes.
Sir, before you turned yourself away and he shot you, did you see him point that weapon at you?
Yes.
Give him the microphone, please.
Oh, jeepers. Sorry, Your Honor.
Yes.
I don't have any further questions, Your Honor. Other than to move to admit People's Exhibit 1213 into evidence. Thank you.
As to Exhibit P-TR 1213, Ms. Spengler, do you have an objection?
I just need to see it.
Oh,
Yes, please.
Can I retrieve it, Your Honor?
Yes.
No objection.
Okay, without objection, P-TR 1213 is admitted.
Publish 2566.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, cross-examination.
No, thank you.
All right, the jury does not appear to have any questions. Mr. Bruckler, may this witness be released from his subpoena?
Yes, sir, you may.
Any objection, Ms. Spengler?
No objection.
All right, sir, thank you very much. All right, members of the jury, it's 5 o'clock, and as you know, tomorrow is an off day for us, and so we're going to adjourn for the weekend because I'm giving you a 3-day weekend. You know what's coming, right? I'm going to go through the advisements. Now, I want to make sure you know that I'm not repeating these advisements because I don't think you're smart or I don't think you can remember them or because I don't think that you're taking them seriously. I'm required by law to give them to you every so often. But additionally, I can't emphasize enough how extremely important they are. Even a single violation of a single advisement could create all kinds of issues for us. You know that I mentioned to you during jury selection that we started this process in January. And actually, I sent out the jury summonses sometime in December they went out. So this is a lengthy process, and it's extremely important that each and every one of you follows each advisement. Again, please do not take the attitude of, what's the big deal if I just tell my husband or my wife or my significant other about this? Or what if I just, about what we're doing during the trial? Or what if I just violate one time? That's not a big deal. That's an improper attitude that you should avoid. Similarly, please don't take the attitude of who's going to find out. If I just tell my brother or my sister or my best friend, nobody will find out. Again, that's the wrong, that would be improper and a wrong attitude. You're on the jury, because we trust that you will follow each and every one of these advisements. And it's an honor, sort of an honor system, honor code system, and each one of you has to police yourself. And I know that it takes discipline, and we trust again that you will have that discipline and you will do it, that you will follow each and every one of these advisements. Now, I know that with the long weekend coming up, some of you may go back to work tomorrow for a day, and that you may do that during other Fridays. We've had a couple of people that we've talked to who have indicated that to us. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you are vigilant. Just make sure that you're aware that people may know that you're on the jury, and people at work may want to talk to you about this, or people at work may want to talk about the case because perhaps they've seen something in the media reports. So just be extra careful and have your antennas up at all times so that if somebody starts talking about the case, you immediately remove yourself from that location. And so that if somebody starts talking to you about it or asking you questions, you stop them right away. Don't let them get any information out. Stop them right away. To the extent that people already know at your jobs that you're on the jury, it might be helpful to tell your supervisors or to tell people, hey, I know that you're aware that I'm on the jury. Please don't talk to me about the case or about my jury experience. I cannot talk about it. I'm prohibited from talking about it. And please don't talk about the case around me. I'm not allowed to hear that. So to the extent that people have already figured out that you're on the jury, it may be helpful to just have your supervisor or whoever let people know, your coworkers and whoever else, that they are not to talk to you about the case and they are not to talk about the case in your presence. Obviously, if people don't know that you're on the jury, don't do that. It's better that they don't know, and you just be careful, okay? All right, let me go through these advisements again. Number one, please do not discuss any aspect of the case with each other through any means. You're free to talk to each other, but not about the case. I encourage you to be friendly with each other, and I know you are, because I hear you coming into the courtroom when you're about a mile away, and that's okay as long as you don't talk about the case or your experience as a juror. Number two, in addition to not being able to discuss the case with each other, please do not communicate about the case with anyone else through any means. That includes your spouse, significant other, family members, friends, co-workers. All you can tell people is that you're a juror in Arapahoe County in a trial that we anticipate will go until August or September. Please do not talk with any witnesses, parties, or attorneys about anything, whether related to the case or not. To make sure that witnesses, parties, and attorneys do not talk to you, it is imperative that you wear your juror badge at all times whenever you're on the courthouse premises, and that your juror badge is visible to everyone around you. Your juror badge will reduce the risk that people will talk about the case in your presence. It will also allow the media to comply with the orders that I have issued that relate to the media, and that relate to the media having any contact with you or talking to you. If you hear anyone talking about the case, please remove yourself from that location immediately. In the event that despite your best efforts, you hear something about the case, please let my staff know that you need to talk to me. Don't tell my staff what it is about. Just let my staff know you need to talk to me. Please do not talk to any members of the media about anything, whether related to the case or not. You must not read, view, or listen to any news or media reports that may refer to the case. Because there is media coverage of the case, please be particularly careful while listening to the radio, watching TV, reading the newspaper, and using the internet. If you're watching TV and you're watching the news, just be aware that there may be a news report, and so be ready to change the channel. But better yet, you might just want to avoid watching the news. That would be the easiest thing to do. Same thing with listening to the radio. You might be better off just avoiding listening to news channels. But if you happen to be listening to a radio station that may have news reports, just be ready to change the channel quickly in case a story comes on about the case. Again, it takes being careful and being aware at all times of your surroundings and what's happening. You cannot visit any locations mentioned in the case or conduct your own investigation outside the courtroom. That includes consulting dictionaries, scientific books, legal books, religious books in relation to your juror service. You must make all decisions in this case based only on the evidence and information presented in the courtroom and the instructions of law that I provide you. You cannot start forming any opinions about the case until I tell you that you can start deliberating. So that means that you must keep an open mind throughout the trial. It's not only improper for you to start talking to each other about the case, but it's improper for you to internally start deliberating about the case, to privately in your own mind start forming opinions about the case. You have to keep an open mind throughout the case. Please remember that neither sympathy nor prejudice for the prosecution or the defendant may affect any of your decisions in this case. And finally, please keep in mind that the attorneys have a job to do. They're required to make objections sometimes. Please do not hold it against them when they make objections. Similarly, do not read anything into my rulings on any objections or any requests by the parties. Remember that I'm neutral in these proceedings and I'm doing my best to apply the law. And so don't infer anything from my rulings. All right. With those advisements in mind, have a great long weekend and I'll see you back here Monday morning at 8:15. Thank you. Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury has exited the courtroom now. Is there anything we need to talk about on behalf of the people at this time?
Your Honor, I need the next court exhibit number just for a photograph that was rejected yesterday.
Okay, what's the next one? 20. So C-TR-20. Mr. Orman?
Just a couple of things, Your Honor. I have some photographs that I took of the model that I'll show them to counsel. There's 5 of them, I believe. Let me just count them. No, there's more than 5. 7, Your Honor.
7?
And I don't know if you want to staple this and make it one court exhibit or make it 7 of them. I would think stapling it and making it one, but
I'm okay with stapling them and making it one if the defense is okay with that.
That's fine.
Okay, we'll mark it then as C-TR-21.
And one more thing, Your Honor, if I may. I spoke to counsel about this briefly. We have a proposed exhibit that we would be introducing through a witness later in the trial. It's Exhibit 999. It's a video, and it is a video of the ambulance bay at University Hospital, and it shows a number of police cars coming in, unloading victims. It shows the injuries to victims and so forth. Based on objections that have happened so far, I anticipate that the defense will object to the admission of this video, saying it's cumulative or 403 objection or a 401 objection. I wouldn't normally ask to do it like this, Your Honor, but the video was pulled by the director of security at University Hospital. He's moved out of state. So I would have to fly him in from out of state to lay a foundation for the admission of the video. I do not believe that that would be an issue that the defense would be objecting to. I think they'd be objecting to the contents of the video. If the court were to rule that it's cumulative or for some reason inadmissible, I would rather not have this guy spend 2 days of his life flying from the East Coast to testify to an exhibit that the court might not find admissible. So I would like to present it to the court so that potentially we can argue about it next week and at least have some idea from the court whether or not the court would render this or decide this is inadmissible. I just don't want to waste this person's time flying out here if the court would not admit this exhibit.
Has the defense viewed this video yet?
It's been provided to them.
Yes.
Okay, well, we can argue about it now if you want, and then I can watch it after I take argument.
That's fine. I don't know if the defense was prepared to do that. I just brought this up with them, and either way is fine with me.
Is the defense prepared to argue about this now or no?
Can I have a moment?
Yes.
You're not watched it, but it's been a while. If we could reserve this till Monday and then argue it on Monday.
Do you have any objection to Mr. Orman tendering it to the court so that I can watch it?
No objection.
Okay, all right, why don't you tender it then, Mr. Orman, and without objection, I'll watch it over the weekend.
I will do that, and if it's okay, Your Honor, I'm going to staple these photographs.
Is there anything else on behalf of the people?
No, Your Honor.
Anything on behalf of the defense? Ms. Spengler, do you have anything?
It's a horrible job I did.
All right, so Mr. Orman, tender that to my staff, and then I'll watch it over the weekend. All right, folks, thank you, have a good weekend, I'll see you on Monday. The court will be in recess.
All right.